This channel is for educational purposes only. Make sure you do your own due diligence before making any investments. And there is inherent risk in trading, so it's speculative. Just make sure you keep that in mind. Hi, this is Joe. We're going to talk about the market today. I wanted to give an update on the market conditions again in back-to-back weeks. I was doing it about once a month. There have been some changes taking place. So as long as there's something to talk about there where there's some shifts taking place, I think we should continue to keep an eye on all the different market conditions. So I want to make sure I'm covering that just so you can see it in black and white. So let's go ahead and get into this chart. And on the left, I've got the listing of the conditions. I'm going to get into the trend and momentum in a minute. The bigger time frames are still in uptrends. And we'll just have to, I'll go through and show you what I'm looking at from a momentum standpoint. The volatility is now above a rising moving average. So if we look at this daily ATR on the S&P, it's been making lower highs and lower lows. And we've seen a couple times now where, especially, like here where we made a pop, and now we're doing the same thing here. We kind of had a little bit longer. We had a little bit of a pop and then it pulled and then it went to another new high here. But the reality is we probably need to see this come down and test this line and survive and turn up. And I think if we do that, then then I would be looking for the volatility to really start to rise. And I want to switch this to a weekly because I want you to see the weekly hasn't really moved that much. We probably need to see this red line, this average true range on the weekly pop up a little bit more before we really get, I think, more significant sign that the volatility is really starting to kick in. However, because this is above a rising moving average on the daily, we do classify this as a negative in our market conditions, and it brings up you've got to be aware of that. We're kind of just barely in overbought now, around 70, and it's sort of a negative because if you look at it, the market keeps pushing higher, and this is actually not really confirming all that much. When you look at the overbought, oversold. Now, that's a 5 RSI. It can jump around pretty quick. But as we stand right now, it looks like it's trying to diverge. The other reason why I wanted to bring this up is the sentiment numbers have dropped from 46 last week to 36. So the number of bulls minus the bears as a percentage has dropped 10% in 1 week. That's a big drop. It's pretty rare to see that fast. And the number of bulls dropped off pretty quick. So when I see this, again, I've been using this sentiment number from Investors Intelligence for almost 30 years. And the reality is when it drops that quickly, it usually means that, we're probably not ready for a significant fall off in the market, just because most of the time the market will drop and the bulls won't budge. They'll be so bullish that they can't, that a little drop in the market doesn't budge them. But in this case, it seems like market participants are looking at any drop in the market and considering that a negative. And we're still in the same boat where every single time the market drops a couple days, there's buyers underneath. So we're going to get into that in a second, but I just want to make sure I covered these. So this week, I would say the conditions turned a little bit more negative because of the rising volatility. I would still tell you, based on what I've been seeing here, that I'd like to see a little bit more of an increase and really like to see a little bit better test of this moving average and then a move to a new high. And that'll probably kick in the weekly one as well. Let's go ahead and get into the 4 time frames. No change on the monthly. It's extended. The weekly chart, I thought we were going to get a little bit better dip. We got a little bit of a downside trading move off of the divergent pinch play, but not the type of follow through that I was expecting. I was expecting at least a full-blown test of the 18-week. And instead, we got almost to the 18-week. Now, MACD still is below the signal line despite this rally we've got taking place off this low, and the ADX is also going down. So we're not getting any more confirmation. But what I've been talking about for a pretty long time now is, these two lines how they're parallel. And the fact is that that's a pretty solid condition of the trend, telling you that we've got pretty good support underneath. The one thing I will tell you is that if the volatility can stay up, if we can continue to get a couple of good sized bar and the volatility increases here, that would increase the odds that this 18-week will probably start to flatten out, and maybe these will come home to roost. But we have to stay with the trend as long as this holds the 18-week. I've kind of been saying the same thing for a while, but there's really been no reason to expect any kind of a big drop. If we're gonna, like, I was expecting a dip back down here, but I wasn't expecting a big decline. And the reason is we don't have the volatility yet. Now, if the volatility continued to climb, then I think that puts us in a much riskier position. Just to take a look at the daily chart, look at how sloppy this has been. We've come down and undercut the 40 several times here. This is not the trending time frame. This time frame is not the time frame that's trending. It's more of like a trigger time frame, because where you come underneath and then you're actually looking for like an opposing trend. But if you notice, the 18 hasn't crossed down below the 40. So it's just a really irregular kind of move that's been taking place without a lot of momentum, and it's been going on for quite some time. So if you've been spending a lot of time trying to trade off the daily into the hour, or the hourly into the daily, you've probably been pretty frustrated. You really have to have focused in on the weekly chart, and you should have been pretty much riding the trend the whole way. So I haven't been going too much into the hourly, just because I don't think we really are in a position right now to focus on that yet. But I did mention the support on the daily chart. I thought it would at least come down and test this 18-week. It got pretty close, but this support underneath seems to be providing a little bit of a cushion for now. We've kind of messed up the momentum indicators still. The MACD is headed south. ADX is headed south. We had pretty heavy selling volume and we rallied back up. So not the types of conditions for the S&P that I would like to have if we're getting ready to make some monster move to the upside. And that might mean we're in for more sideways consolidation in the near term. But the trend is still to the upside. It's just not, it's not the type of trend from, if I'm like in a buy, if this looked like a stock, I wouldn't be all that excited. I mean, if this were a stock, I'd rather go find a stock, and there are plenty out there that look pretty attractive. Let's go ahead and look at the QQQ. We can see on the hourly this big V bottom. You see how big drop. It looked like they were going to drop it, maybe actually get more than a couple days to the downside, but they just turned on a dime. And I had mentioned on the weekly chart that I thought there was pretty significant support here. And again, that would have been the 18-week and these prior tops here. And this only went down for a little bit. We haven't had a lot of downside. Now, it's possible we're going to see some more downside here over the next week or two, but just the reaction is telling me that it's more of the same. We're just not in a position right now to see the sellers take over yet. And, you can kind of see that in on the daily chart with the red DI. It tried to pop up over 25 and then immediately drop back down. So just don't have the real strength. We do have an 18 and a 40 that are rising here. It came inside the zone and now it's popping back out. But the trend is okay. I think the conditions on this index, the QQQ, is actually a little bit stronger because the monthly and the daily have decent ADX conditions, whereas S&P really doesn't have that in place right now. So anyway, that's the update for the week. Post any questions or comments, and we'll see you next time.